Hey guys, welcome to Multitaskr. I'm Joe Frosto, CEO and founder of Multitaskr, a marketplace where we unite homeowners and the best service providers in your area. But today I want to welcome you to our podcast. It's called the Home Solutions Network Podcast, and we're going to be introducing the top service providers, clients that have used our marketplace, and some of the people that direct this company, and very exciting stories. The goal of the podcast is to save you time, save you money, give you insights, give you tips, and create value for your home. So come on in and let's check it out. Hello everyone, welcome to Multitaskr Home Solution Network Podcast, a marketplace where we unite homeowners and service providers. In this episode, I'm sitting down with Garrett Moore, CEO of Agorus Inc. of San Diego, California. Excited for this one? This will be a fun one. Garrett, thank you for joining us today. So our listeners get to know you a little bit better. Can you tell us a little bit about you and your background?
For sure. So I grew up in Arizona, did my undergrad at Stanford Design School, and played football there. Really enjoyed the competitive sports, the common cause, the team environment, and decided to try and find the next thing that would do that, given that professional sports were off the table. And so I decided to join the Navy, and I wanted to pursue that same environment in special operations. So I became a SEAL officer, spent about 12 years doing the usual deployments all around the world. And it was a tremendous opportunity for me to grow as a young man, as a young father and husband. But towards the tail end of that part, I ended up purchasing a house and I became an accidental developer. And so that's where my background from a very different walk of life has transitioned over, but my passion for the competitive, integrated, highly dynamic teams has never left. And so that's one of the reasons we got into starting Agorus.
Nice. How long ago was that?
So I ended up transitioning off active duty in late 2019, but we had started the company in the tail end of that time. So my co-founder and I started in 2018. And it largely stemmed from this pain point of we built a house. So we actually are next door neighbors. So little side story.
What year was that when you built a home?
It's years because that's part of the story. We started the project in 2015, didn't move in until late 2018, which I wish I could say that was unique to us. But I think a lot of people have a similar process with traditional construction because it takes longer than you expect. And it's sometimes like herding cats. So we ended up building a little bit of a compound together here in San Diego. So I live next to my mom and dad on one side and my co-founder and business partner, long-term childhood friend on the other side. And what's interesting about our background that's germane to this conversation is we had kind of a little bit of side-by-side comparison. He built his home stick-built, the traditional method. I built mine with a company that was doing modular builds out of Idaho. And we kind of had a little bit of a race. And as we both went through this process together, we stumbled and kind of waded through a lot of the pain points on both sides. And I think we came away both very frustrated with the status quo and the quote unquote new way of building offsite as modules. So from that, the company was born out of that pain point.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about Agorus. What problem are you solving? How are you solving it currently?
So there's several layers to this conversation. There's the strategic macro fix all the way down to the personal fix. So the pain point was a personal one of, I wanted to build a home for my family. Kyle wanted to build a home for his family. It was expensive. It lasted forever. It was just one of the most stressful processes that I've lived through. At the macro level, what we're trying to do is we are trying to build the future of construction. And by that, what I mean is, as an example, in California alone, we need 1.8 million homes by 2025. We're currently building 80 to 90,000 a year. So even if we quadrupled our current capacity, we will never get to that number with the status quo. So Agorus is born from this idea that in order to meet the demands of the market, we need to build a new technology that can build better, faster, cheaper so that people can live where they want to live at the price point they want to live at.
So take us through a sample of how that would work. Currently, how is it working, right? So currently, you go through the permitting process, then you start shopping around before that with a contractor, and then you have to wait till the permit is approved and the contractor goes out and buys the materials and then starts doing it the old school way, right? And there's certain timeframes depending how big the home or how complex or the layout is, et cetera, et cetera. Currently, how are you guys solving that, regarding time, regarding and anything else that you think would entail through that process that you actually lived when you were building your home, right?
Absolutely. So there's two analogies I use, little phrases. One is the old adage that a camel is a horse designed by committee. Homes are camels. There's no single one-stop shop mentor, advisor. It's literally 25 or 30 different subcontractors. It's a patchwork. A way I liken it is, could you dump 10,000 parts in your driveway and say, build a Camaro? Yeah, you could. Is that the best way to do it? Absolutely not. And so I think part of this is about staying digital, staying vertically integrated, and building a cohesive process so that you're not dealing with all of the pain points that you just mentioned. So as an overarching process, construction goes digital to analog quite a bit. So an architect designs something digital. They give it to the structural engineer in a PDF plan. PDF goes to the structural engineer. He re-engineers it digitally, and then he exports it again as a PDF plan. And then you've got a framer that takes this piece of paper at the job site, an electrician and plumber, and says, okay, now I have to figure out how to build this from a 2D model. And so in those pain points or in those friction points, lots of information get lost. There's areas for miscommunication. There's areas for misunderstanding with the customer, misunderstanding between the trades. It's 2021. We don't need to do that. And so Agorus takes all of that and wraps it up into a digital process. So we have a software that stays digital the entire time. It imports or it brings in an architect's design. And a key distinction here is whatever the architect wants. It can be completely custom. And it digitally breaks it down into a series of zeros and ones, the code that can go into our factory. And in our factory, we have a series of advanced robotic machines that can take that custom plan, but then build it and execute it as standardized 2D panels. So imagine you're building the Death Star out of Lego blocks. Each individual Lego block is 2 or 3 or 6, or it's a standard thing. But when you put those standards together, you can now have a highly complex structure. You just need the software that can break it down and connect those dots.
Awesome. So I'm assuming all that saves time, saves money, right? Just give us like a rough estimate. So let's say you're building a 1,000 square foot home. What you would say, if you build it the old way, what do you think framing would take? Just old way, rough estimate.
I think oftentimes on the low end, framing can take 3 or 4 weeks. Some of the projects we're taking over, that framing package took 8 to 12 weeks, sitting out in the rain, getting weather damaged. Our process as a frame of reference last Friday, the build that we completed, we built that same house in 5.5 hours in the factory.
Wow. So you went from, let's say, a month, 2 months to 5.5 hours in your factory.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So that's going to reduce time, of course, and that's going to reduce cost, I'm assuming, as well.
100%. So our primary heartbeat is making housing better, faster, cheaper. And usually the old rule of thumb is you only get to pick 2. We say that's the tyranny of the or. It should be and. Why can't I have better and faster and cheaper? And so that's what we do. And in each of those buckets, the reason it's better is because when you have advanced machinery putting things together, you're accurate to within a millimeter. Everything is it's a computer controlled saw, computer controlled machine. So the entire build quality and accuracy goes up tremendously. This also then has ancillary benefits of reduced waste and higher degree of like airtightness of the home, the quality control aspect. The faster is a little bit more obvious. That's kind of the normal one. When people start thinking about homes being built in hours instead of months, that's pretty intuitive. And then obviously this gets into cheaper. When you can take the vast majority of the labor and you can automate it, and then you can start to aggregate and buy in bulk, you can start to drive down the price point. And that benefit then all gets passed down to the consumer. So they get a better product. They get a product that's in their home or in their yard much faster and at a lower price point.
Awesome. We actually went to your factory and saw how you guys were doing things, and I was pretty blown away and how organized you guys were. And I think the biggest thing for me was I didn't see so much wood, right? And so I was expecting to see a ton of lumber, and then just seeing how precise you guys were and how much you actually need, and just realizing like, okay, they really know what they're talking about, right? They're counting everything down to the nail, right? Of how much you truly need to be able to do that frame for that house, et cetera. So, in Multitaskr, we're all about helping consumers how to save time, how to save money, how to create more value. And so when we met you guys and we saw what you guys were doing, we were pretty blown away on how you guys were tackling that problem, which is a huge problem. I think construction is very archaic on the way things are being done, especially on the residential side. Commercial side, they're adapting more. There's been a lot of money being funneled from a VC standpoint on the commercial side. But on the residential side, I still think we're still behind on what it should look like, right? And I think when we saw what you guys were doing, we were pretty impressed on saying, okay, they're thinking the same way we're thinking. They're seeing it from the construction standpoint. We're seeing it from a consumer standpoint on who do we align ourselves with to be able to truly save time and money to the consumer, right?
Absolutely.
And so I was pretty impressed when I saw that. So I find it really innovative with the approach on offsite construction. Why is offsite construction an added value?
We look at ourselves as like early 1900s, and people are asking for faster horses. And Henry Ford is saying, I've got a new way of doing things. Like, let me show you what an assembly line is. Well, we take that for granted. Automobiles have been manufactured on an assembly line forever. Most of the consumer goods, I mean, everything from aircraft all the way down to the cell phone that's in my pocket, are built on an assembly line because of the efficiencies that can be gained there. Why is construction no different? And so when we look at the proven productivity gains of a controlled environment, we are just basically pivoting that and saying, okay, we're going to build the technology and the software that can enable this to happen in construction, because offsite construction is not new. It's been around since, I mean, pretty much forever, but a notable name from 60, 70 years ago was Sears Catalog. Like, there were homes you could buy kits, but it has not fully matured or saturated the market yet. Offsite construction is less than 2% of their overall process. And I think a large part of this that we're trying to fix is that the home is a very visceral human thing, and people want to be able to customize it and make it their own. But if I tell you, you can have whatever home you want as long as it's made out of cubes, or as long as it looks like this, and you're saying that's not what I want to live in, then there's a disconnect. And so if we can connect those two worlds and say, you can have the customization that you want in the geography that you want, we will just then build it leveraging 21st century automation, then we feel like we can have the best of both worlds.
Nice, agreed. And for our listeners, there will be a little video reflecting what Garrett is talking about, so you guys can visualize how it looks in the factory and how they build and how they actually do, put it all together on the site. Because I know a lot of people want to see what we're talking about, so you'll be able to see that if you check us out on YouTube or another one of our sites on video. So as you guys know, this year is the year of the ADUs. There's a lot of interest with ADUs, and that was one of the things that we kept seeing last year from our consumers wanting more and more information. So we decided to create a lot of tools to simplify the process for consumers, financing tools, visualization tools, the whole VR process of how to see things, which is something we're going to show you, Garrett, later on the line. But tell us a little bit about where your thoughts are with ADUs, and then also when you guys met Multitaskr, what were your thoughts on how we were approaching ADUs?
I think ADUs are a true innovation in this nexus between building departments and cities and public policy, but then also constructability. People want to live in California. There's only so much land that remains. So the easiest way and the fastest way to inject supply into the economy and into the system is through these backyard granny flats and these ADUs. And why these are so great is because it allows all of the families that are currently not living in the areas that they want to be, it now opens up these opportunities. And so we see this as a true kind of front runner innovation in the construction space. And I think you're already starting to see other cities all around the country adopt similar policies as well as processes to do this in their area. And why we are especially excited about this is because ADUs by definition are built in somebody's backyard, and people don't want 9 months of construction and hammers and nails in the backyard where their kids are running around and playing. And so if we can say to a family, to a homeowner, hey, look, you can have that home and it's going to be done in a matter of days or a few weeks. And then you can have your mother-in-law, or if it's going to be an Airbnb or a VRBO, that takes all the pressure off of you and then therefore your neighborhood with trucks and all the drama that goes with a typical construction site. So we see this as a really great entry point in housing innovation. And I know those two words don't usually go hand in hand, but it can be done.
Agreed, 100%. And so when you met Multitaskr, how did you see that being something that would interest you guys to work with us to tackle that problem of ADUs that people want? People want it, but don't even know how to get it, right? And so there's a lot of complexities to it. And one of the hugest ones is what you just mentioned. And so that's what we loved about you guys. But what did you like about what we're doing?
Multitaskr is the first company that I think we've come across that we feel has cracked the nut on making the home a product, not a series of processes. And so when I go to the car dealership, I design my car, I price it, I buy it, it's all under one roof, gets built in the factory and gets, sent to me 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later. That's not currently how construction exists. But when I look at Multitaskr, I see the same business model. I go in, I design it, I price or finance it directly under a one-stop shop. What happens on the back end of who's putting tires onto what and who's welding the chassis, doesn't matter to me. All I know is I bought this product and it was delivered to me. And I think that is absolutely critical for consumers to have confidence in construction, because when you look at some of the Gallup poll data out there, it's one of the least trusted or least satisfied industries when it comes to the consumer interaction. And I think Multitaskr is taking that and completely flipping it on its head.
Appreciate that. Yeah, that was one of the things that we were concerned about when we were starting to guide people to buy ADUs and selling more and more. One of our biggest concerns was, how are we going to make sure that this gets built properly, right? If we also do some construction, but honestly, that's not the intention, right? Our intention is to get the best price, to get everything done the best way for the consumer. And if we have to align with 20 different contractors, so be it. But how do you keep the consistency, right? At the end of the day, even if it's another contractor building, the consumer's going to get mad at us if we tell them go with Joe Schmo, because we recommended that person, right? So when we met you guys, we were very thrilled because we're like, oh, wow, this could be a company that we can grow together with, because they're building in a very efficient way that we can then make sure that it just gets done correctly on the site. And then we can start cutting those assumptions of, is it going to turn out right? And so very excited to meet you guys, and then very excited to start working on some of these ADUs together. And hopefully help out as many homeowners as we can, right? Yeah, one of the other things too that got me excited about seeing your guys' process was, now we're starting to talk to a couple of mayors in the city of San Diego, and kind of showing them our process of what we're aiming for. Talks have gone very, very well. We're actually in more talks about doing certain things to help out the bottleneck right now in permitting. But one of the conversations we had was, how can you help us help our constituents lower prices and do things more efficiently, right? And so one of them were the way you guys do the construction offsite, and they were pretty impressed on it. They liked that. And so just excited to kind of show that more and more, and hopefully we can build ADUs throughout the state of California, and then eventually go to other states, and not just ADUs, but new home builds and other things. Yeah, there's a couple of new bills, SB 9, SB 10, that the Senate just passed. We'll see if the governor signs it, but if that happens, there'll be a lot of other things too that we'll be talking about, that you can actually build another home in your home, full-on single-family residence. So it'll be interesting there too. So is there anything else that you think consumers or anybody out there listening to us? I know there's other contractors, there's other homeowners, there's other people out there listening to us, but is there anything else that you think they should know about you, about Agorus, about your goal, about your mission, or any education or feedback that you want to give to people?
I think one of the things that we feel in our company is this sense of the industry is going to change. There's enough variables in place that we're on the precipice of a fundamental shift in the way the business works. And this is beyond Multitaskr and Agorus. This is part of like a generational change in how we do business in this industry. And we want to be at the leading edge of it. And so where we feel like we are right now, and we've talked about this before too, is this is the books of, okay, books are getting distributed online and I'm buying them and I get them in a couple days. But if we can figure that out and it gets, the distribution mechanics get put out well, then CDs or DVDs or kids' clothes or eventually groceries start to become more commonplace. And so I'm really excited to see all of the different folks that are tackling different slices of this industry, because we need lots of help. This is not just a one company fix. This is not an easy app that all of a sudden can, drastically change all of our problems. It's a concerted effort, and it requires lots of partnerships upstream in the supply chain. So partnerships with developers and builders and contractors and subcontractors. This industry is big enough that it can handle a ton of vendors. And so we're excited to work by, with, and through all of the other players that are in this space, because we joke at the company, it takes a village to raise a startup.
100%. It's a huge problem that we're trying to tackle, but I think we can do it. If we join forces with aligned, minded people like yourself, I think we can do a lot of good, right, for current and future homeowners throughout the U.S. and excited to see how this all goes and how we evolve to help more and more people as we go. Well, awesome, Garrett. Really enjoyed talking to you today. Likewise. And I have a little surprise for you. So we're going to go into our VR showroom and I'll explain to you how that works, and you'll be able to walk and kind of see what we're working on the back end. And it's something we're going live next month for consumers. So hopefully they'll enjoy it and hopefully you'll enjoy it as well.
Right on.
Thank you again, Garrett.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now our guest will experience Multitaskr's virtual reality platform. Garrett, so right there, we'll be able to play either videos, like educational videos to consumers, or even hold like let's say Zoom meetings, right? And we'll be able to explain to them what the showroom can do for them, where they can design their kitchen, their bathroom, their landscape, and their ADU.
Joe, this is incredible because we do virtual reality, but we do it from a very different perspective, because when we're building and everything happens so quickly, there's no change orders. So the customer and the developer and the builder have to be comfortable with the feel. But oftentimes what you find is that there's actually not good communication between a lot of the subcontractors, et cetera. And so it provides a tremendous interface for a lot of deconfliction and troubleshooting upstream, which is, to your point, that's one of the biggest pain points, is folks that are taking 2D plans and then trying to visualize it. Oh, I thought the closet was going to be bigger. Or I thought this bedroom was going to be laid out differently. What you guys have done is take it one step further, which is the next level of looking at the styles and the finishes and the choices and being able to make all those decisions so you don't get into the home and then say, oh, I don't like that, tear it out, let's do something different. This technology is a game changer.
Hey guys, thank you for joining Multitaskr's Home Solution Network podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please click on subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our next podcasts. Remember, every single podcast, we're going to give you different advice on how to save time, how to save money, and how to create value. Check us out at gomultitaskr.com. Click subscribe.